George was a magnificent player.
He was skillful, really, in dribbling. We call him the wizard dribbler.
I wanted to prove to those critics that I could make something out of myself.
He's our hero.
Come rain or shine, this field is never without a football. It is at the heart of a swampy slum in Liberia's capital, Monrovia. A training ground that brims with team spirit it is also an escape from the biting hand of poverty that has been dealt to the boys of Claratown Football Field. But the often waterlogged pitch is most of all a ray of hope. After humble beginnings on the same field, renowned footballer George Weah shot to international fame.
We all know that we are originated from the field. So people expect good things to come from this field. So the kid, the player every day, they're committed to the game. Yeah, they are determined because they want to follow the footprint of George Weah. They want to become good player too, to represent Africa.
One of his childhood friends, 43-year-old Veronica Doe, still lives in the neighborhood where he grew up.
Let me show you where George Weah was living. Yeah, you were living here with a grandmother before you got that contract. Here George Weah was living. This is the house.
He was abandoned by his parents and raised by his grandmother along with his aunt, Rebecca Lambe, in Gibraltar, one of the poorest areas in Monrovia.
We slept on one mat, he and myself in the house, on the ground. He was going to school, I was not going to school. I used to cook for them.
But his Liberia home today is a far cry from his troubled youth. A Mercedes and a BMW decorate his driveway. And he has a basketball court and a mini football pitch in his compound.
I had a series of challenges, living in a community where there was no hope, a lot of friends in the street, gambling, using drugs, and I'm glad I was raised by my grandmother. If I didn't, I don't know what I was going to become. She taught me a whole lot. She taught me how to pray. She taught me how to forgive. She taught me how to love. And she taught me how to be respectful, to go for what we want to do and never give up.
George started playing football almost as soon as he could walk, just like most other children in Liberia.
He started playing football from a smaller town, and whenever he get out in the morning, we go look for him with me playing football. We call him to come and eat. After eating, he will go and play football.
In Liberia, basically the primary sport is football. The vast majority of the kids get involved in football. Football is like a religion in Liberia, trust me. It's like a religion. People are football crazy in Liberia. They love the game.
We play with barefooted, no sneakers, no shoes. And there's a lot of risk in that, cutting our toes and glass bottle on our feet. And as you play, maybe your knee pierce your legs and you cry, you leave the field. So that's the memory of football, playing in front of our house, challenging each other in a small space.
Aged 15, George caught the eye of sports journalist Omari Jackson. He started reporting on a young footballer with a dream.
Initially, he was kind of a lazy player, but when the coaches realized that he had the talent, he had the ability to do what they wanted him to do, they spent time on him.
People call me lazy, weak, and all of those adjectives were used on me. But I kept my focus. I wanted to persevere. I wanted to prove to those critics that I could make something out of myself.
He was awarded a football scholarship to go to Wells Hairstone High School, aged 16. Back in the classroom where they studied together, Stephen Quo and Josiah Nagbe remember him practicing his autograph from an early age. They knew him by his middle name, Opong.
We used to sit at the bar there practicing signature. How to sound? And whenever I see that signature, I know straight that Opong's signature here. And why you write everything.
He was very, very shy. And shy guy, respectful guy. And he was smart guy who equal to learn.
Football took George away from the classroom and he dropped out of school in his final year. But he had begun a quick rise through the country's top teams. Sam Sebastian played with him for the first Liberian club he joined, Young Survivor.
We played together until, let's say, 85, 86. From there, he joined Bong Range. From Bong Range, he joined Mighty Barrow.
He was skillful, really, in dribbling. We call him the wizard dribbler. With the journalists, gave him that name because of his way with the ball.
He joined University 11. From there, he started exploding.
We kept writing about him whenever he played. I will describe the manner he played against the opponent, how he dribbled a defender, how he will get a goal. And so the fans out there want to see this man repeat the same thing over and over.
They had a tournament here, and he was scouted by a team from Cameroon. From Cameroon, he went to France, AS Monaco.
Liberians adored the 22-year-old striker.
Whenever it was announced that Weah game would be shown on the TV, Any house that got television will be jam-packed for that day or that moment until the game is over. There were Liberians that played in Europe before him, but they did not get to that height where Weah reached.
George was going from strength to strength, goal after goal. He scored an outstanding 47 times in 103 games during his 4 years at AS Monaco. He was signed by Paris Saint-Germain in 1992 and 3 years later by AC Milan. His salary shot to millions of dollars a year. George became known for a wonder goal against Verona when he dribbled the ball almost the whole length of the field and scored. In 1995, he was named the best footballer in the world by the International Football Federation, FIFA. That year, he was given almost every award a footballer could win, also taking home Best European and Best African Player. The boy who grew up in a slum in a small West African country had been catapulted to celebrity status. He was famous, rich, and revered.
That was my best moment. That was the ultimate. You know, a kid grew up from the ghetto, no hope. You know, went away, and when everybody thought that he would just run back to Liberia because things would not be okay, you know, to be on the world stage, I mean, that was my best moment. To have won all of the trophies, you know, it was unimaginable.
George was voted African Player of the Century by international journalists in 1998. The year 2000 saw him go on to Chelsea, followed by Manchester City, Marseille, and Al Jazeera. He was a national hero, loved by Liberians and celebrated by football fans around the world. George was embracing his highest moments overseas.
Wherever he's played, he scored goals and with style.
But meanwhile, horror had been unfolding at home. Former politician and trained guerrilla fighter Charles Taylor started a civil war in 1989 to overthrow the then president. As the warring factions struggled for power, hundreds of thousands were killed.
We saw the images on the television, and there's no information from our parents and people all over the place. And, so it was a sad situation. It was heartbreaking. Whenever I go to the field for 90 minutes, you know, I will do what I can do to keep the positive image of Liberia. And then when I go back home after 90 minutes, like my whole world was falling apart.
The killings were escalating and rape was widely used as a weapon of war. Thousands of Liberians fled to neighboring countries where they gathered in refugee camps. In May 1996, after the war had dragged on for 7 years, George called on the United Nations to come to the rescue. The response from Liberian warmongers was immediate and personal.
People got upset, thought that I wanted to, you know, sell Liberian sovereignty, attack my property, burn my homes, took all my cars and took everything from me.
The attackers raped all the women inside his house, including 2 of his teenage cousins.
I think I had a responsibility since I was on the world stage and people respected me, my fame, I couldn't just sit and Liberia burn down to the dream. I had to say something.
George was not deterred. He came back to Liberia.
When a country is in a crisis, I think we have a responsibility to give back. So that I couldn't run from this country. I had to do what I had to do.
He decided to use what he knew best to try to restore stability. A game that offered a way to forget the war and restore pride. As a player and coach, he helped to revive the struggling Liberian national football team, the Lone Star. He made more than $15 million during his 5 years with AC Milan and paid to keep the Lone Star alive.
George Weah was single-handedly taking care of our national team. We went to the Nation Cup in South Africa, 1996.
He will buy footballs, jerseys, you know, and that attitude, that behavior earned him in the heart of many, many Liberians.
George moved the Liberian national team's training camp to nearby Ivory Coast so they could practice in safety. In May 1996, he sent someone through rebel lines with money to hire a bus for the Lone Star to travel from Ivory Coast to a game in Accra, Ghana. 5 months later, George bought tickets to fly in 10 Liberian players from Europe and chartered a plane for $47,000 to take the team to a game in Zaire.
Yes, I spent more than $2 million to put the national team together. It's a fact. But it's my responsibility, you know. It gives some sense of relief to the refugee camps. Because whenever we play in Ghana, all of the refugees that are in Ghana, everybody from Guinea will come there to watch the national team play.
In my own experience, as we drove through the lines where they get these rebels on the other side, the Ecomont on this side, you hear that these boys discussing about George Weah because Liberia were playing a football match. And both combatants, both from either combatant, discussing about George Weah's influence, how Liberia must win. But at the same time, they got guns to kill each other.
When it comes to football, the people put aside your problem. All those stress factors, and you name it, everything to put aside and come together as one. So basically, football was a unifier.
George has helped many aspiring young footballers to improve their skills on the pitch. More than 10 former Lone Star players landed contracts in Europe because he recommended them and paid for their flights to trials. A half-dozen other Liberian players owe their professional football careers to him.
We are helped to promote most of the youth, some of the youth from Clarendon. He recognized them to be teammates from the same Clarendon community, and he helped them today. Some are in the United States, some are in France and other parts of the continent.
George retired from playing football for teams overseas when he was 37. He started to help young people to go to school. Many had been deprived of an education during the Civil War.
If the sign is not there and you go to that area,
He transformed his old school into the Weah Vocational Training Institute, where he gives students scholarships to learn new skills.
The fire service truck is an authorized emergency.
Some are being taught how to drive, while others learn tailoring and how to set up their own businesses.
I believe that my standing in this class, in this historical class, is a success for me and all of my brothers. Ambassador Weah. We love him. Okay. We appreciate him. And we pray that God must always lift his hand up.
And I'm praying that he should give up more scholarships. There are others that want to come and join, but they don't have the hand. So I pray that his scholarship extend up to the rural area.
George also built an elementary school for more than 300 pupils in the heart of the area where he grew up.
I want people to remember me, not the George Weah that have $2 or $3 million in his account, not the George Weah that drive the best of car. I want people to remember me, the George Weah that helped a young kid to educate himself. This is the kind of person I wanted to remember me.
In recent years, George has spent much of his time in the USA, where he lives with his wife Clara and 4 children. 2 of his sons are following in their father's footsteps. 26-year-old George Weah Jr. is a professional footballer plying his trade in Switzerland, and 13-year-old Timothy also wants to play in the big league. But King George has never abandoned Liberia. At the age of 39, 2 years after retiring from playing football, he decided to try to contribute to his country in a very different way. He ran to be the president of Liberia.
Why I want to be president? This question is why Liberian people want me to be president, why they believe that I can be the president. I always wanted to serve my people. And to be president is to serve. I think I have the willpower, I have the intellect, I have the heart, to represent my people and to help my people gain growth.
His supporters founded the Congress for Democratic Change and welcomed him to the helm.
George Weah was the best person because George Weah, amongst all of the person, demonstrated national passion, patriotism. They're not working government, they're not steal state resources, grew up in the slums and in the ghettos. We thought that he would understood the plight of the people of Liberia, especially the young generation.
Liberian governments have been accused of swallowing state resources for their own gain, keeping the masses poor. Currently, around 70% of the war-torn country's population of 3.5 million live in poverty.
I hope to see Liberia prosper, not going back to the dark days. That's my hope. To see that every Liberian be part of the society and enjoy the Liberian dream that we're all expecting. That's my hope.
George could use his finances to sponsor the national team, for example, that none of the politicians ever did. If he could do that, it's possible that he could manage the country resources to better Liberians. So it's not surprising that today, when politics is, the order of the day, many people think that George could be a good president because he cared for them. He loved the country that many other politicians will not do that.
In 2005, George ran for the presidency, winning overwhelming support from deprived areas such as his own hometown. But when the results were revealed, he scored 40.6% of the vote compared to 59.4% for Harvard-educated Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, who became Africa's first female head of state.
We inaugurate a new beginning, a rebirth of our democracy, and a restoration of hope.
George's critics complained that lack of education disqualified him from the country's highest office. So he returned to the classroom to finish high school and to do a degree in business administration. In 2011, he ran for vice president alongside presidential candidate Winston Tubman, nephew of former President William Tubman.
He was hugely popular, and so the ticket was very popular. Everywhere we went, huge crowds. But when the votes were counted, we were not declared the winner.
President Sirleaf was re-elected head of state. And George went back to school again to bolster his political success. This time, he gained a master's degree in public administration. The next presidential election is in 2017. In the meantime, George is going for a position as Senator of Montserrado County.
George Weah could set that record for being the sitting senator who will run and definitely win not only the senatorial position but the presidency in 2017.
I'm sure that he will make it. I'm too happy for that, for him to be president. I sit down here and not do anything. My brother become president, I will not be happy. I will be too happy. So I know he will make it.
In the streets of Monrovia, there are mixed views about the football icon in politics.
I don't really know what his intention of taking that position, but everyone has a gift. If God call you to be a footballer, you can be. But to leave that area to become a politician, I feel so discouraged.
Yeah, I voted for George Weah and I'm going to vote for him again because it's my dream for him to be president.
This is the kind of individual who was always putting the nation first in the sporting arena. So he felt that he could transcend that urge, that patriotism to politics.
There's a vast difference between football and politics. Yeah. Politics has no morals. I mean, politics is what it is. You know, I don't think it's the same.
I consider myself not a footballer, not a politician. I'm a human being. I'm George Weah, born Liberian. I'm a human being. That football was my passion, and I went to it. It gave me a sense of professionalism, and it gave me life, But I would not want to be stereotyped.
Looking at the future, tell me which way to go. Lord, I must have been repeated all man. So, they didn't know hunger, tribulation either.
Whether or not he is elected president in 2017, King George's legacy lives on.